Elara had always known that her destiny was tied to the dark forest. From a young age, the stories had surrounded her. The tales of a wicked sorcerer who ruled the forest with dark magic, of the monsters he summoned to guard his domain, and of the countless brave warriors who had ventured into the woods never to return. Yet, as she stood on the edge of the ancient forest, sword in hand, Elara felt no fear. She had trained her entire life for this moment. From the time she was a child, her father, the greatest swordsman in the kingdom, had taught her the art of swordplay. While other girls her age were learning to sew and dance, Elara was practicing her strikes and blocks. She was quick, agile, and above all determined. The villagers had begged her not to go. "No one ever returns from the dark forest," they had cried. "The sorcerer's magic is too powerful." But Elara knew she had no choice. Her village was dying. The crops were withering, the rivers were drying up, and the shadow of the sorcerer stretched further across the land each day. If no one acted, the entire kingdom would fall into darkness. And if anyone could stop him, it was her. Elara tightened her grip on her sword, the familiar weight giving her strength. Her father's sword. It had been passed down through generations of warriors, and now it was hers. The steel glinted in the dying light of the sun as she stepped into the shadow of the trees. The air in the dark forest was thick and oppressive, heavy with the scent of damp earth and rotting leaves. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, blocking the light. Elara moved silently, her senses alert for any sign of danger. Hours passed as she made her way deeper into the forest. The silence was unnatural, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant cry of some unseen creature. The deeper she went, the darker the forest became, until even the faintest light was swallowed by the shadows. But Elara pressed on, guided by the stories she had heard as a child. The sorcerer's tower lay at the heart of the forest, guarded by beasts and dark magic. No one had ever reached it, but Elara was determined to succeed where others had failed. As night fell, Elara made camp beneath a large, gnarled tree. She built a small fire, its flames flickering weakly in the oppressive darkness. As she sat, sharpening her sword, her mind wandered to the stories her father had told her, tales of heroes who had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. She would be one of them. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, a low growl, deep and menacing. Elara was on her feet in an instant, her sword drawn. From the shadows, a pair of glowing red eyes emerged, followed by the hulking form of a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. Its body was covered in thick black fur, its claws as long as daggers, and its teeth gleamed in the firelight. Elara's heart raced, but she did not falter. With a battle cry, she lunged at the beast, her sword flashing in the dim light. The creature roared and swiped at her with its massive claws, but Elara was too quick. She ducked and rolled, striking at its flank with a powerful blow. The creature howled in pain, staggering back into the shadows. For a moment, there was silence. Elara stood, her sword ready, her breath coming in quick, sharp bursts. Then, from the darkness, a voice echoed. "Impressive, young warrior, but you will find that my beasts are not so easily defeated." The voice was smooth and cold, sending a chill down Elara's spine. She knew at once who it belonged to, the sorcerer. He was watching her. "I will find you," she called out, her voice steady, "and I will end this." The voice chuckled, a low, menacing sound. "We shall see." The next morning, Elara continued her journey, her resolve stronger than ever. The sorcerer knew she was coming, but that didn't matter. She would face whatever challenges he threw at her. Days passed, and each night, Elara faced a new creature, a monstrous wolf with eyes like fire, a serpent with scales as hard as stone, a shadowy figure that seemed to melt into the darkness. Each time, she fought with everything she had, her skills tested to their limits. And each time, she emerged victorious, though not without injury. But it wasn't just the beasts that tested her. The forest itself seemed to conspire against her. The trees shifted in the night, twisting and turning to confuse her path. The air grew colder, the shadows darker. At times, she could hear the sorcerer's voice, taunting her from the darkness. "You cannot defeat me, girl. You are alone." But Elara knew she wasn't alone. Her father's spirit was with her, guiding her, pushing her forward. The sword in her hand was a reminder of the strength that had been passed down through her family for generations. She would not fail. Finally, after what felt like weeks, Elara reached the heart of the forest. The sorcerer's tower rose before her, a dark, looming structure that seemed to pierce the sky. The air was thick with magic, and Elara could feel its weight pressing down on her. As she approached the tower, the ground beneath her feet trembled. From the earth rose a figure, cloaked in shadows and darkness. The sorcerer. "You've made it far," he said, his voice a cold whisper. "But this is where your journey ends." Elara raised her sword, her eyes locked on the sorcerer. "This ends tonight." With a wave of his hand, the sorcerer unleashed a torrent of dark magic, but Elara was ready. She had faced his beasts, his tricks, and his illusions. Now, she faced him. The battle was fierce. The sorcerer's magic clashed with the steel of her sword, the air crackling with energy. Elara's movements were quick and precise, her strikes powerful and determined. But the sorcerer was strong, his magic ancient and dark. For a moment, it seemed as though all was lost. The sorcerer's magic surrounded her, choking the life from her. But then, in a burst of energy, Elara broke free, her sword flashing in the darkness. With one final, powerful strike, she brought the blade down on the sorcerer. The sorcerer let out a scream of fury and pain as the magic dissipated into the air. He fell to the ground, his body crumbling into dust. The forest was silent. Elara stood, her chest heaving, her sword still raised. She had done it. The sorcerer was defeated. The dark magic that had plagued her village for so long was gone. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, Elara sheathed her sword and turned toward home. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. Now it was time to return to the light.